how much is
or do you want to?
What?
Let's brainstorm topics before we go into a topic.
Yeah, so I'm just brainstorming here. So these are some of the things. So in terms of consistency, also where do the current APIs lag? I think it'd be useful for people to say, I'm trying to do this with Node API and I can't because of this, and therefore, how do we make APIs better in general? That I want to do it now, I can't do it. How would it change so I can do it in the future?
I'm talking about blocks and layout in about an hour, so I don't know if people want to talk about that before that.
Well, I think that's a little different issue. So I think that we're mostly talking here about things that are like Node API, Common API, User API.
No, his issue does end up touching on something wider than just being blocks question. But,
Okay. Yeah. Well, to the extent that you think it fits, talk about it.
What else is on the agenda then?
So, I mean, this is totally open. Anyone can put anything on the agenda. You're taking notes on these, right?
Yeah, right.
So is someone going to write down, anyone volunteering, especially people with computers open?
I'll take notes.
Yeah?
I should have enough battery.
Okay. Well, I'm sure someone can lend the power if you don't.
Okay.
Okay. So, Buggo's talk was kind of probably a good lead-in to this, and I submitted one that was sort of related. I don't know what other people, in terms of the talks you submitted, that might also be a way. Like if you submitted a talk and you have a couple slides, you can say, the thing I was worried about was this. Tell us about it, and we can go jump off from there. I think. I don't know. Maybe a quick first thing is like just a reaction. Like, should we really be focusing on having a very standardized API for everything? So,
Yes.
So, okay.
The for everything might be debatable, but yeah.
Well, so the for everything is debatable.
As
Okay.
little variation in the API as possible.
The question is, what are the implications, right?
Right.
I mean, we're going to increase the barrier for participation for new developers if we start going towards object-oriented framework, or that's what we're talking about.
Well,
right?
maybe lower.
I mean,
for some people.
Well, no. Trust me. I'm all for it. I just mean, it's.
Right.
I think that. What's that?
It's been an argument.
I think,
Whether procedural or OO, having lots of different things use the same API or use the same API pattern lowers the barrier to entry because there's fewer things you have to keep track of. So details, implementation details aside, consistent APIs and parallel APIs make life easier for everybody.
So then the next question is, how do we want to go about the implementation?
Right. So, other things I would worry. So what else are you worried about? When you say not for everything, what's
your example of menu links. Like, we have bajillions of those, and they're tiny little things, and they probably don't need to be treated as full entities. So.
Right. So there's a question like, if I'm loading, 100 of these things, how do I shortcut all these hooks?
Yeah, but
I'm loading every one of them.
Could be said for comments, but if you think of it, it turns out that people want to field comments. They want to put images on them, and if you think more on it, then they want to field menu links too. Just think of it. They want to put on icons.
Exactly.
For example,
it's not lightweight enough if we have those problems. You know what I mean? I think whatever our common entity base form is, it needs to be lightweight enough that it can accommodate those.
yes.
You know what I mean?
And also, we probably can make it should not be too hard to either not implement simply a given hook or method or callback or whatever, or just throw back empty things. So I think that indeed, even those small things probably should be accomplished, but it is a very valid concern how we make those perform. In Drupal 7, our answer to this question was multi-load cache, which indeed helps, and the same from him is entity cache. The question is that we now rely really a lot on caches being relevant and performant, and we hit those caches a lot of time, and if we miss, that can get very scary.
Let me throw this out. Is there a value to having two layers of loadable thing. We have entities that have fieldability, pluggable backends, all these other fun things, and then something more lightweight that's barely above active record. So just, we have these things that
What is it
load us-
adding?
I mean, we already have files as entities, but they're not fieldable. They don't really get rendered.
Yeah, is everything that's an entity fieldable, or is any,
No.
or we have a base?
Only the defined.
Vocabularies are
Yeah.
entities that are not fieldable, and you say file.
Files in core use the entity loader, but they're not fieldable. There's no rendering pattern for them or anything like that. It's a whole different thing altogether.
Is whether an entity is fieldable or not, is that the only thing that distinguishes lightweight and full?
In Drupal 7, yes.
Yes.
Is there
That's
anything else
probably
that
true.
we should differentiate between kind of a full entity and a lightweight entity?
I would say things that are not in the entity API but are parallel between different things. So like comment rendering, node rendering, user rendering, as opposed to terms which are rendered as fields usually initial on the page. Things like that, which we're not even really discussing in terms of a unified API, are already kind of converging, and they're quite expensive, and they're my main concern.
The rendering pipeline?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, we might want to split finally users from user profiles, where users probably are lightweight entities and user profiles are full.
I can't tell you how hard we tried. One of those issues to do that. So someone else can try for Drupal 8, but no, that was unbearable.
Yeah, implementing user profiles closer to like content profile is would be useful.
Yeah, implementing it as an entity.
Yeah, but then you can have multiple different types associated to a user.
Yeah. So right now we made users fieldable in 7, which in retrospect is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
We should have split up users and user profiles.
Well, we knew enough to not get in the way of people doing it that way. Right? You can spin up your own entity and add fields to it. And it's not that
Yeah,
hard.
and you happen to know a project which already does that, right?
Yes.
So what's, I mean, so what are the, in terms of consistency, what are the barest, methods that such a base entity needs? I mean, is that...
CRUD.
But well, no, is that true in Drupal? I mean, you always have, so when I load it, it's create...
Not all entities will have full CRUD. I do a lot of work with remote data access, and for that, usually I have read-only. And I'm not going to be creating or updating objects, but I still want to have access with the same API to 150,000 records in some third-party system over SOAP. I do that all the time.
Right, but does read, I guess what I'm getting at is like the read API, I guess that's like a node load, right?
Yeah.
Now that's a tricky question.
Right.
Because
that's why I'm asking it.
Whether we want to just load or we want to be able to query.
But actually, with entity load, we have already a simple conditions we pass through, and I think we should extend that.
But that's, but this is
This is where things begin. As we were discussing before, Peter began to structure this talk. You have 3 steps. You have the simple query where you indeed just throw in a few conditions and maybe short conditions, and you just have the collection of entities, and you take those. The next step is when you are querying across entities, relationships, and the third step, which I don't even want to think about, is when you want to query across storage engines, which more happens with him when you want to query remote stuff. I want to show your tweets. You have a Drupal user account, and I want to show your tweets. This is the third step. I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I myself, I know that we will need to go there. It might be Drupal 9 by the time we get
Well, wait,
there.
but so the question, if you're loading a remote object, do you still need Drupal alter hooks, or is the equivalent alter hooks in the base entity for this unified API?
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
This is actual example, and here's how I would like to be able to implement it. Artwork, I've got a collection management system at a museum. I want to load artworks, use a common API, and show them on the website. I need to be able to query against those artworks if someone searches for them by keyword or whatever.